Are the Orks really worth playing in Battlesector 40k? Let's find out together. Since I just finished my Blood Angels No Unit Loss campaign, I naturally decided to do something completely different. Today, we're commanding the Orks in Planetary Supremacy for the very first time. Everyone says they are all about overwhelming the enemy with numbers. So, is that really enough to conquer entire planet? Let's find out. As we go into the gameplay, we chose the Astra Militarum and the Necrons as our enemies on this planet. For no particular reason, I just wanted to see other fractions too. And we kept the planet pretty standard, I guess. I did not spend too much time thinking about the planet's settings. Just wanted to experience the power of war. As we go into the gameplay, we start off with a relatively small army itself, and the very first goal should be to increase the army and learn from the Boyz. As the two enemy fractions are far away on the map in the first missions, we will be focusing on increasing our army point capacity and also getting stronger units. So it was very helpful that we immediately went against some good old friends, the Blood Angels, since those are the units that we should know by heart now. This allowed me to understand my army a little bit better, since I kinda understood how strong those Blood Angels units are in general. After a few turns, I realized a few things. The Gretchen unit, absolute cannon fodder. At this point, I was not sure if I will use them in future missions or not, but I guess as a cheap unit, they are always welcome. And while all the infantry seems very slow, they also seem very sturdy, and it seems like melee is the preferred choice for most of them. At this point, I could not appreciate the warbikers yet, but this was soon to come. Now, in this particular battle, the Blood Angels didn't really give us a big fight. At the end, I'm spoiling now, we won pretty comfortably. But it was interesting to see a new game mode and how it is structured. The second cool thing happened shortly after the fight. This is where we were able to reinforce our units as well as upgrade our army. Since I didn't really know what to pick, we picked the war boss. To be honest, sounds pretty badass, and who wouldn't want a boss when going to war, right? Shortly after, the first turn was done, and we already got somewhat comfortable with our army. After that, we added the mentioned war boss and a death copter to our squad. I was curious to see how the tech units would perform in the next battle, and if it was worth investigating further. Since the Blood Angels tech units were the MVPs in my campaign earlier, I had really high hopes for this helicopter unit. And so, into the next battle we went, as we needed to increase our army capacity. This time, it was against the Black Legion. This is a fraction we have never encountered before, so I was very interested to see what they will bring to the battle. I went into this with the same strategy as in our campaign. Split the units into mechs and infantry. But during this battle, I quickly realized another lesson. This should not be done with the Orks. In my opinion, they live from overwhelming numbers and not really because they have super high quality units, at least not in the beginning of this campaign. So I did start to appreciate the hit and run strategies from those bikers. And although I was not able to save all the great paint jobs that they did, they really impressed me with the damage output. The Dev Copter on the other hand, I don't know. Maybe I'm using them wrong, but it didn't reach the imaginary expectations that I had prior to this battle. It seemed like the damage output was not big enough, and the hit points that it has were also not the best ones. I did appreciate the big circle around it though, so we could use it as a spy unit maybe in the future, but spending 130 points on a spy unit seemed a little bit too much to me. Well, by the end of the battle, we corrected our initial mistake of splitting the units. We were able to shift the momentum onto the one side of the battlefield where most of the Black Legion units came from and destroy the rest of them. We reached the 80 points very comfortably, although in the beginning it didn't look like it. Naturally at this point, we can say we were established in our Boyz group and had a good grip on what's going on. Or so I thought. After the second battle, we learned some valuable lessons. Well, first, do not split your army like we did with the Blood Angels. But also, not all mech units that the Orks have are high-tech. Makes kinda sense, but hindsight is 2020, right? Anyhow, we chose to improve our army once more with some mega knobs as well as a weird boy. Mainly because of their names, but also hopefully they hit hard. I was really hoping some great things from these heavy armor knobs. And also, I finally had the healer unit I was missing after the Blood Angels campaign. To be honest, going into Battle 3, I started to see why people started to complain about this game mode a little bit. It started to get a little bit repetitive. In order to gain army momentum, you need to conquer these fields. And in order to conquer these fields, you need to fight the captivating army. In this case, we were fighting the Blood Angels again. And the goal was, yet again, to achieve these 80 points. The only thing different was, the size of the map, also the structure of the map was a little bit different. But it was the same thing over and over again. Not to criticize, I still wanted to keep going, especially because I wanted to see what these orks are capable of. And with the new units in the battles, I was very interested. I was also interested to finally hit the Necrons and the Astra Militarum, since those were fractions that we never encountered before. So, we went into the battle with a similar strategy. Just keep the troops together. And this is exactly where we learn more about our units. Those mega knobs are mega slow. How do you even get them close enough to do some serious damage? Well, furthermore, the goal in these missions shifted to keep the elite units and HQ units alive. I learned in between the battles, we cannot reinforce them every time. They are becoming a scarce commodity that needs to be managed on top. Looking into the future, this will help us against the Humies and the Necrons. I'm pretty sure. Saying that, at this point, we seem to have found a kind of a rhythm with these boys, and I started to appreciate the different types of warriors they have. In general, I think it is very cool to have the option of playing these other factions in this game. It really gives me the true Warhammer 40k tabletop feeling that I was looking for. In general, when I was looking for this game, I was actually trying to find a replacement for my tabletop game, since I didn't really find anyone to play with me. So I was very, very, very relieved that there's a game out there that is being played very similar to the tabletop, just on the PC. Well, going back to the battle, the only real difficulty we had was the positioning of our units. At this point, I still haven't figured out the most efficient positioning in order to not get surprised by these damn land speeders, and while also being flexible enough to hit them in the following turn. But we made the best out of it, I think, with our war bikers and some mega knobs, as well as our HQ units, we managed pretty well. But since at this point I was still not feeling the complete power of the war, I decided to upgrade our army once again. I don't know what it is with me and tech units, maybe because I'm an engineer, maybe because I just like those mechanical units because they have so much hit points or because they hit hard. But I chose to take the Death Dread, since this unit looked super cool, and as a second unit I took the custom Bust Up Blaster. Let's see how these vehicles perform in battle. Looking at the overall map, we were heading closer to our enemies. I noticed one thing. The Necrons tried to stay away from everyone, while the Humies tried to take the center. It was clear to me that this aggression cannot be tolerated, which is why Astra Militarum was now the first target to go. For whatever reason, I decided to auto-resolve these battles against them. I guess I took the option that the game gives you, and started to be a little lazy after having 3 repetitive battles. This continued for a few turns, as we started to get closer to their base. At this point I realized that it would benefit us to have a bigger army than them, which is why we chose to take the field that would allow us to gain the 300 extra points. Going into this battle, I was a little bit surprised that it was a little bit different this time. It was more of a capture the flag type game, where we needed to capture a territory, while the enemy tried to deny us the entry. It was against the Black Legion once again, and I felt very confident that we can defeat this battle rather quickly. Well, I was not wrong, but I was also happy to use my 2 new units. They were the needed reinforcement we needed. Especially this moving can impressed me. This is also why in future battles this was one of the units that spearheaded anything. Anyhow, after figuring this out, we were pretty quickly to capture the required area and did a good job of keeping our expensive units safe. At the end, the victory was more than decisive, and we managed to get our 300 point army bonus. As we see the last turns of this battle, I think I wanted to say it's amazing how the Orks believe things into working, like this deaf cat here for example. Another example would be the guns. They in general have a weird ability in Warhammer. Their collective belief has a subtle psychic effect on reality. A gun that's held together by maybe scraps and duct tape might actually fire because every Ork believes it should. Well, I guess so is my army today. So if we win and capture this planet, it's probably because all of them believed hard enough. Some people might say now it was a mistake to not take the base earlier. I would agree. This way we allowed the Humies to build up their army again and hit us back very hard. Unfortunately for them, we were able to defeat their attempts, which left them with basically no army. And while we had 2 action points going into our next turn, we had the momentum on our side. Yes, the auto-resolve removed the majority of our army, but at this point we were able to fill up the army with infantry units and just walk into the base, protected only by 355 points. As we spawned into the area, the battlefield and map design very cool. It was a base like I would have expected the humans to have. The goal was to capture 4 outposts or delete their army. The latter would be the easier way since their army was barely existing at this point, but we wanted to see the whole experience, I guess. Going on to the battle, we quickly made our way to the first few capturing points without facing too much resistance. Since our army was mainly filled up with infantry units, the battle took a bit longer than usual. But it did not disappoint. We managed to do everything that an Ork army would do at this point, including some tactical blunders and undercomplicated moves. But I guess if your army is so much bigger than the opponent's, that can be neglected. What did surprise me were some moves by the generals of the opposition. They are able to get rid of one person in their unit and boost the defense of the rest. Seeing that for the first time, I was a little bit shocked. But I guess this is war for you. While we see the last few turns of this battle, I can safely say that we got rid of 1/2 of the opponents on this planet. In the next episode, we will focus on the Necrons that tried to stay out of the battle until now. What did we learn so far? Well, we learned already some great lessons about the Orks, and I guess we will continue to learn more as we battle more. But until now, I think the most important lesson that we learned is to stay together and to use the full force of your army, while keeping your elite unit alive so that they can give you more benefits in the long run. Well, with that being said, thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one. Goodbye.